Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Bubble Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, President Trump has announced that he will make a big announcement on Monday on his Russia policy, and in the meantime, he's let people know that he's very actively involved in arming Ukraine, and he's working out some kind of a scheme with Europe that whereby Europe will purchase arms and in particular Patriot systems from the United States, so they're going to pay for it, and they're going to hand them over to Ukraine. So that seems to be the idea.
So do
And
you think that Trump's been in touch with Sullivan and Blinken and maybe had a quick call with Joe Biden because this is the Biden policy,
it is
right?
it absolutely is the Biden policy. And some people are really wondering, such as like Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene, hey, was this was this what we campaigned on? Was this what we promised? Um, it took just a few months for you to essentially embark on a continuation of the Biden Blinken Sullivan policy. But anyway, here
Well,
was
George, I know
yep,
you probably have a slideshow, but
yep.
um, I'm really I'm having a lot of problems process. It's really hot here. Maybe that's slowing down my brain processes. But I thought there was a shortage of weapons.
I thought so too.
So you can put them on order now. Cash on delivery. There are just so many things they're throwing at
Well,
us right
I was
now.
going to ask you about that, and I because I'm puzzled about that. A week ago, we were talking about this. Oh, there's a shortage. We can't deliver anymore, and now apparently, we're gonna send them whatever they need. I kind of wonder, was this a bait and switch? Was this some kind of an elaborate ruse, to lull us into thinking one thing and then just in order to hit us with something else? Because this is a directly contradictory to all that the Pentagon, with Elbridge Colby and Pete Hegseth was saying. Now this is the complete reverse. So I don't know, how did this come about?
I think that contemplating is it a ruse? I think I'm done with rusing. I just think this is just policy on the off the cuff.
Right.
It looks like a foreign policy flying by the seat of your pants to me now. There's no other way to explain it. Okay.
Right.
These people, number one, are not experienced. Number two, they're not knowledgeable. And
Right.
there's, we can cite many people over the last few decades that were really, really bad people, awful people, but they were operators. They understood, first of all, they knew what they wanted and they understood the system and how to have that delivered to them. These are people that would be supporting policies that you and I would
Yep.
abhor, but they know what they're doing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I don't see any of these elements in play here at
Right.
all. That's why it's the win. I think people. I may be wrong, but it looks like people are terrified of Trump, the people around him.
Right.
Maybe, yeah.
I guess so. Um, but at the same time, you're kind of left with this puzzle as to what is the Trump policy? I mean, what is it? Wait, I mean, like, what is he trying to accomplish?
Well,
Um,
okay. Let's in the context of your, what is the objective to avoid losing? Is that the objective? Is the objective to end the hostilities without any meaningful attempt to eventually settle the conflict? What is it?
but
Is it victory? How do you define victory? Is it to avoid defeat? How do you define avoiding defeat? Is this for towards the maintaining the integrity of NATO? Is that the objective?
But
I
that's
mean,
yeah.
we could go on and on and on asking these questions because the way the policy or lack of policy is being presented begs those questions.
No, that's exactly right, and that's why it's even in the case of Biden and Blinken and Sullivan, we could identify what's the policy. The policy is they're going to keep the war going in order to inflict as much damage on Russia as possible, to weaken Russia as much as possible. They said it explicitly, and that
And
was
the
fulfilled.
policy reflected that.
Right, exactly. So just to keep the war going, and for that reason. Now Trump hasn't said that, and then so that's why he hasn't articulated that's his goal, and so that's why it becomes just baffling. What is he doing now? He really does seem to be buffeted by today's newspaper headlines.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's very hard to figure out why he's doing this. But
Well,
now,
and then the last data point before we go forward is that we had a Lavrov Rubio meeting, and we gleaned from Rubio is that there's been I'm paraphrasing here, kind of a rethinking or some new
some
ideas.
new ideas, exactly.
Is this going to be translated into the announcement that's going to be made on Monday?
Well, that's a very good question because Rubio did say that. However, the Russian readout of the meeting made no suggestion that there was anything new. In fact, the Russian readout was quite terse and just said, we talked about a lot of different things or, issues of interest. There was nothing, no suggestion. Oh, and we discussed a way of going forward on Ukraine. There was just no suggestion at all of that. So you have to then wonder whether Rubio was just making this up, just something to say at the news conference. And then when, predictably enough, there's not going to be any major development, he said, well, look at these Russians, you can't trust them. But
Now, we've come a long way, haven't we? That's what I was taught during the Cold War, George.
right, but it was you're absolutely right. I mean, it was very peculiar for Rubio to say this during the news conference. Oh, some new ideas, and I'm going to take it back to Washington, and we're going to discuss this. Maybe it's a new way of going forward. And there's nothing at all in the Russian readout. Even that they talk very much about Ukraine. So it was a very terse readout. So yeah, we just talked about number of issues of mutual interest.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the things that kind of festers in my mind, looking at this mishmash, it's like throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks, And one of the thing that kind of is in a loop in my head is what is the value of a better bilateral relationship in lieu of all of these other issues?
Right.
Okay, and again, I'm not going down the path of psychology here, but I watched what the public was given with the meeting between Lavrov and Rubio. It appeared to be cordial. Okay, it seemed to be respectful,
Mm-hmm.
and Rubio, put out his hand. Lavrov shook it, and then Rubio hit him on the shoulder.
Right.
And why am I saying that is because is the value of the bilateral relationship, does that still have some currency here in lieu of all of this? And there's something, this is a theme George and I have been talking about ever since the second Trump administration started. What is the relative importance of that in lieu of these other issues here? It seems like it's still there.
Right. Though I don't know whether there's been how much progress there's been on the
Not
whole
much from what I can tell.
exactly on those issues of those consular issues and embassy diplomat issues. I haven't seen very much progress on those things. So I mean, I have to say I'm very skeptical that there can be any real improvement in bilateral relations while this Ukraine war
Yeah, I mean,
continues.
are they demonstrating to us is that we don't throw spitballs at each other anymore. We don't curse at each other. We can still shake hands and be adults. Okay, if that means that's an improvement, well, I'll take what I can
I
get, but
guess
I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed.
no, I'm not impressed either. But at the same time, with Trump's recent outbursts, that's more or less throwing spitballs at each other, saying, we're getting bullshit from Putin. He's giving us nonsense. That's not cordial.
Well, it's not cordial, I'll let you move forward with what you want to show. But I think we cannot overlook, and we must discuss here now the other fronts that are opening up here. Okay, this again, I don't like to pat ourselves on the back here, but we've been talking about opening up new fronts for a good year now.
Right, right,
Okay.
right,
And now we're seeing it
right.
vividly.
Incidentally, one has to say that we were right, really, originally, because originally we kind of predicted the arc of Trump's policy. We said that he might kind of, make some overtures towards Russia, but eventually he's going to fall back and continue with the policy. That's our prediction. But then, we tried to be optimistic and said, well, maybe there's something, real here. But
Hey, hope has died here many times.
that's right. So originally, we were right originally, but then it's like, okay, well, maybe there's something going on here. But
Always gave the benefit of the doubt every
exactly,
single time.
exactly. Anyway, so Trump gave this interview to NBC News. He talked on the phone to Kristen Walker, and here says, this major statement is coming on Russia. We don't know what's in the major statement, but it's going to be big. Trump spoke about the status of Russia's war with Ukraine, telling NBC News, "I'm disappointed in Russia, but we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks." This is Trump's classic. It's always a couple of weeks.
Maybe that's kind of his brain cycle. It's kind of there's ideas gestate for 2 weeks and then they
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. It just that we've heard 2 weeks, couple of
It's
weeks on.
always, yes, he's the couple of weeks guy. I think I'll have a major statement to make on Russia on Monday, he said, declining to elaborate. Again, Trump. So that means everyone over the weekend is going to be talking about, oh, what's coming in the statement? What's being in the statement? So that's how Trump dominates the news cycle. So he knows, oh, good, the Sunday talk shows are all going to be about what's in this major statement.
But and I suppose his foreign policy team is wishing, hoping, and praying as we are speaking right now that they'll be given some kind of heads up.
Yes, that's right. Because probably neither Rubio nor Hexet actually knows what's in this statement that's coming on Monday.
Could you imagine these guys having a signal call? What do you think he's going to say? I don't know. What do you think he's going to say? Oh, I'm going to be on Meet the Depressed. What should I say if they ask me? Okay. Or
Right,
face the disgrace. Okay.
that's
All
right.
these programs here. I'm not going. I'm calling in sick. I'm not going. Okay.
That's right. So he said he also revealed the details of what he said was a new deal among the United States, NATO, and Ukraine over the shipment of weapons from the United States. And it says, we're sending weapons to NATO, and NATO is paying for those weapons 100%. So what we're doing is the weapons that are going out are going to NATO. Then NATO is going to be giving those weapons to Ukraine, and NATO is paying for those weapons. Now, this puzzled me a little bit.
Oh,
I mean, who
could you introduce me to Mr. and Mrs. NATO?
exactly? That's
Because
exactly what I was thinking.
is Victor Orban paying for this?
Well, that's right. So, because
Who's NATO?
who is NATO? I mean, it's like the United States is the biggest contributor to NATO, so still the United States will be paying for it. I mean, it's like what does Hungary contribute to NATO? What does Montenegro contribute to NATO? So NATO is paying for those weapons. So he always wants to do this, to show, oh, hey, this, they're paying. This isn't free. This isn't coming out of our pockets. No, no, no. Somebody's paying for it.
Well, I wouldn't take that to the bank,
I don't think
Evan.
so either.
These bureaucracies are so vast, so much money is moving around. I wouldn't be surprised if it's American tax money.
I'm absolutely convinced. I mean, then the United States bankrolls NATO. I mean, it's that NATO is a United States operation.
Well, I mean given the rhetoric that we've over the last few months, it's the UK and Germany, which would be
Germany. Well, that's we'll come to
NATO
that. Yeah,
here.
right.
Okay,
And
but I mean,
UK is not.
is this?
UK is not going to. I don't think UK is going to.
No, no, I don't think no,
Yeah.
no way. Okay, I mean, but is this like on an installment program, or is this is this like taking out a mortgage? I don't even think countries like Germany have that kind of cash
Right.
to
No.
going on.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think we promise we'll play. So it's going to be a
Well, so if you give me a
long-term
hamburger today,
repayment
I
program.
promise to. You give me a hamburger today, and I promise to pay you on Tuesday.
That's
Okay.
right. But he keeps repeating. Notice how he says this. We're sending weapons to NATO. NATO's paying for these weapons 100%. So what we're doing is the weapons that are going out are going to NATO. Then NATO is going to be giving those weapons to Ukraine. NATO is paying for those weapons. And just in case we didn't get the message, he says we send weapons to NATO, and NATO is going to reimburse the full cost of those weapons. Just in case, so they're going to reimburse us. So he wants to persuade.
Or is he trying to convince himself or the American people? I'm not really.
That's a very good
I
question.
mean, is there a NATO bank account?
Well, exactly. It's a very strange because there isn't anything like that. There isn't a NATO bank account. I mean, it's like you contribute to NATO, you contribute your forces and all that
Yeah,
there isn't somehow NATO has
but
vast billions of dollars or euros at its disposal.
is there a NATO bank?
No, I don't think so.
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Okay.
But, later, so, and then he goes on. It was unclear whether Trump was referring to an idea that has recently been floated of some NATO members potentially buying US-made weapons on behalf of Ukraine, so the United States does not have to shoulder the cost. And that's where the Germans come in. The Germans are saying, "Yeah, we'll buy these Patriot systems."
I
Trump,
thought they were in short supply.
that's kind of what we were told. That's a very very real peculiarity.
Are they
It's
going to have an auction? I have a 1997 a Patriot system here. We're going to start out at $1 billion. Do you have any takers out there? Okay, I mean, it sounds like this to me.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's a it's a very peculiar. And to be honest, I don't even get what's the value added of having a Patriot system. I don't know what do you get out of this. I mean, they're quite expensive, and these drones. I mean, sending out a Patriot missile to hit a drone makes very little sense. The drones are very cheap, and the missile is quite expensive, so it doesn't make a great deal of financial sense. Then it says Trump restarted the shipment of U.S. weapons to Ukraine this week after the Defense Department this month held up scheduled shipment of weapons to the country at war with Russia. And then the pause ordered by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Hegseth is really being hung out to dry here. So the pause ordered by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on the
Yeah,
recommendation of Elbridge Colby.
yeah.
Appeared.
I mean, we can. I'm absolutely sure that he gets hammered every midnight now having this job. A midnight hammer. That's Pete Higgs.
Yeah. That's why he never looks happy, Hegseth, when he's sitting next to Trump.
Did you see that video I sent you?
Yes, I did. Yes. Yes.
The with the drones in the back.
Very, very weird.
Stop doing that. Stop doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is cringe.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was fake.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I don't know why they would think that this somehow anyone would be impressed by that. Anyone would think that it's anything other than creepy.
Well, and George, I mean, it's kind of a manosphere thing here. When you have these little tiny
Yes,
drones flying, or I mean, they look like insects. I
they
mean,
do.
at least when you have a B-1 bomber,
Good.
it needs space, okay? But he's there and he's got these little like insect
Yes.
things
And
going
it's kind of
around him.
flying over his head. And,
Yeah, I mean, are you going to get a mosquito bite? I mean,
yeah, so you
it's
think
very weird.
it is exactly. You think you're watching a movie. You're being sort of these attacks of these insects, these giant insects, and they can apparently do all sorts of things with their with their feet or whatever those things are. They're hanging out of them. So yeah, that's why it looked quite creepy. Um, and then it appeared to catch many in the Trump administration, including State Department officials, by surprise. Asked Thursday about the weapons pause, Trump said, I don't know anything about it. He added that Hexeth is doing a great job.
Hell of a job, Brownie.
He's doing a great job. Fantastic job. He's doing a fantastic job. Senator Lindsey Graham has for months, and he was in Europe, in Rome at this Ukraine reconstruction conference, along with the guy in Connecticut.
Blumenthal?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
So Senator Lindsey Graham has for months been pushing GOP leaders, including Trump, to move on a bill he introduced that would impose new sanctions on Russia.
But they are not new sanctions on Russia.
Exactly.
That's inaccurate to
Exactly.
describe it that way. Keep going.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. In recent days, Graham signaled that the bill now has support from both Trump and Senate Majority Leader Thune. Trump said Thursday that he expected the Senate to pass the sanctions measure. It's a bill that the Senate is passing that very respectfully lets the president do whatever he wants, as you know. He said, in other words, it's at my option if I want to use it. They're going to pass a very major and very biting sanctions bill, but it's up to the president as to whether or not he wants to exercise it.
Okay, so this is all public here. This is
Mhm.
part of the campaign. So are we led to believe that Trump has sent out to his people, if Putin calls, tell me. I'm going to wait this weekend. Okay. Anyone that gets a call, I'm on call. Okay. Is this like a public threat? Like you have until Monday, and
Right,
then I'm going to drop the hammer here. Is
right,
that what's going on here, George?
right. I don't know. I'm to be honest, I'm puzzled by the sanctions bill. He's not always giving me complete flexibility. Well, if he's giving you flexibility, then what do you need the bill for? You can impose the sanctions you want. I mean, you do. I mean, the U.S. government does it all the time. It doesn't
All
need
the
any bill all
time.
the time. Oh, this is sanction, that's sanction. I mean, the Biden administration every other day was introducing new sanctions. So what do you need the legislation for?
And since when do you care what the Senate says?
Exactly. Oh, it's giving me complete flexibility. So, what do you
Well,
need?
that's why my question is this part of some kind of ruse? Okay.
Well, I think so, but the Russians are not impressed by this. I mean, it's like
No.
if the plan is, if that's what Trump is thinking, that somehow this is going to really, shock the Russians into, I don't know, capitulating. Well, I mean, then it ain't gonna happen. I mean, it's been tried before. It's not gonna happen. Um, and that's why I think, as we'll discuss, I think they all know that this isn't going to force Russia to capitulate. And so what they're really doing, and what I think is the more sinister goal, is they want a war. I think they're just preparing the ground for a war because they know perfectly well, this bunch of sanctions, sending more arms to Ukraine, it's not going to make any difference. So why are they doing it? Well, I think they're laying the groundwork for a war. Um, and then Axios says Trump plans to send Ukraine weapons via NATO allies. President Trump is planning to sell weapons to NATO allies with the understanding that they will then provide them to Ukraine. And says why it matters. This is a major policy shift from Trump as he grows increasingly disillusioned with Russia's Vladimir Putin. He has long rejected the idea of new arms packages for Ukraine, in part to avoid becoming personally embroiled in the conflict. Now, I want to ask you, all this talk about I'm very disappointed in Putin. Is Trump sincere when he says this? Because why would he be disappointed? I mean, at what point did Putin lead him to believe that he would just simply wrap up the war and just call it a day? I mean, at what point was this happen? So does Trump really believe this, or is it again it's this bait and switch? He's just
Well, I mean,
deceiving us.
you could say this is a major policy shift from Trump, as he his is increasingly sobering up. Okay, because there's nothing. The Russian position hasn't changed. So, I mean, I don't want. He's disillusioned with his own naivete. I mean, because I don't see anything. The only thing that's changing, the only thing that's evolving, is Trump's thinking.
Right.
Nothing else.
Well, that's right. But then what was he thinking?
What was he thinking?
I mean, we sort of assumed that he kind of grasped that this war makes very little sense. It's entirely destructive, and that it's incumbent on him, on Trump, to bring this thing to an end. We kind of were under the impression that he understood this.
Well, we know this even
speeches from during the campaign that
we know this from this week. Too many people are dying.
Yeah.
So the alternative is to kill even more people.
Right.
I mean, I can't compute. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I can't.
We have to burn the village to save the village.
Exactly. And then it says, yes, but two administration officials denied the plans meant Trump would now be arming Ukraine. Ah, okay. POTUS is sending defensive weapons to NATO. NATO can decide what to do with it. We're not sending weapons to Ukraine, one official said. I love this. I mean, this is so disingenuous. I mean, imagine somebody telling you this. You just burst out laughing. I mean, it's so ridiculous. You're like, okay, POTUS is sending defensive weapons. NATO can decide what to do with it. You know what? I kind of want to keep it. I think I'm going to sell it somewhere else, make some money. And then we're not sending weapons to Ukraine. Okay. But Trump himself confirmed in the NBC interview that the arms would ultimately be bound for Ukraine. Yeah, yes, he did. So what we're doing is the weapons that are going out are going to Ukraine, going to NATO, and then NATO is going to be giving those weapons to Ukraine, and NATO is paying for those weapons. Yeah, that's what he said. And then the scheme was floated at the recent.
What does this have to do with a strategy regarding Ukraine?
No, none at all. I mean, the only
strategy
is somehow Trump wants to persuade us that he's the shrewd businessman and that we're not going to be out of pocket. But this hasn't been an issue. Nobody's been arguing about are we out of pocket or not out of pocket. I mean, that really isn't where the debate is. And Trump seems to want to keep that. That's where he wants to keep the debate. Who's paying for what, as if that's a matter that's should engage us.
I think you must have skipped the slide because I thought this was all about a ceasefire.
Yes, I thought so too. Yeah. The ceasefire seems to have been quietly forgotten. So now it's all about sending to Zelensky whatever Zelensky wants, which is
so there's a cessation of the ceasefire.
That's right. In order to get Putin to the negotiating table, of course.
Well, I think we're being very generous here. I don't even think they thought that far out. You have for them, okay?
But you see, it's kind of interesting, and it does highlight the problem of Trump, which was there from the beginning, is that he, although seemingly critical of NATO, he was only critical on the sort of the business side of it. Oh, they're ripping us off. They're making money. We're not making money. It was always a kind of trivial issue because that really isn't the issue. Because America's going to piss away the money. Somewhere around America will find a way to piss away money. That wasn't really the issue with NATO. But he kind of wanted to do. Oh well, look, they're all ripping us off. We're bankrolling this, and they're just living high on the hog. That's how he always wanted to float it. So that's why he argues in this way. Oh, don't worry, we're not going to be out of pocket. That's the issue. Oh, America's not going to be out of pocket.
Yeah, well,
It's all going to be paid for.
The Pentagon in a organization that is incapable of passing an audit. Yeah, it's all about money, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Right.
Yes. So the scheme was floated at the recent NATO summit, and it has been discussed with Ukraine and European allies. One source said the sales could include offensive weaponry, not just air defense support. Oh, we're back on the offensive and defensive weapons. The other source, a senior European official, confirmed such a scheme had been discussed, but said their government was not aware of any final plan.
Nobody's aware of the final plan.
No, exactly. What's the plan here? I guess when he makes his announcement, the big announcement on Monday, none of the sources provided details as to when or how the plans would be carried out. You should say when or how, whatever plans there are or are not would be carried out. And then Trump continued to allow some arms shipments to Ukraine that were authorized under President Biden, but had not approved any new package since taking office. He has long opposed picking sides in the conflict, and many in his base are hostile to the idea of actively backing Ukraine. But it's very interesting because of what you said. Remember when he was asked during the campaign by that woman, Caitlin Collins at CNN, don't you want Ukraine to win? And he kept saying, I want the killing to stop. And he said, I want the killing to stop. So at that time, he seemed to have the wherewithal to say that's going to be my policy. I want the killing to stop. But now that's not the policy. He has long opposed picking sides. So Trump attacked Biden for months for throwing billions of dollars at an open-ended war. Trump could argue he's not repeating that mistake because he's selling weapons rather than providing them as aid. Well, he could argue that, but
he could argue it. But
but unless somebody actually is going to, come up with any money, it's just you're selling. Yeah, we'll pay. We'll definitely, the check's in the mail. But with Trump's peace process nowhere near fruition, he's now prepared to take steps that would have seemed unthinkable a few months ago. And then for weeks, when asked whether Trump had grown frustrated enough with Russian intransigence that he would consider new weapons transfers, senior administration officials downplayed the likelihood to Axios. He wants out of Ukraine, not into Ukraine, one official said earlier this month. But Trump's frustration with Putin's bombardment of Ukrainian cities changed the calculus. Everything is a negotiation, the same official said on Thursday.
Everything is a negotiation.
I have no idea what that means.
Can you translate that for me,
No,
George?
not at all. I have no idea what it means. And then the Pentagon froze a recent shipment, but Trump reversed the decision earlier this week, citing Ukraine's need to defend its cities. And then he has said repeatedly in recent days that the U.S. would supply only defensive weaponry to Ukraine. And then what to watch, arms shipments were expected to dwindle as Biden-era funding ran out. But Trump's newfound willingness to sell arms bound for Ukraine could change that calculus. Yeah. And now here it says, this is again, Trump says he struck a deal, and this is from CNN. This just goes over the same ground. And this is Reuters also. But Reuters says something more. It says Trump to use presidential authority to send weapons to Ukraine. President Trump, for the first time since returning to office, will send weapons to Ukraine under presidential powers frequently used by his predecessor. And
I
it's
guess they couldn't say. I guess they just couldn't say it straight out, just like Biden.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, so more than 3 years after Russia's invasion of its neighbor, Trump team will identify arms from U.S. stockpiles to send to Ukraine under the presidential drawdown authorities, with one saying that they could be worth around 300 million. So far, the Trump administration has only sent weapons authorized by former President Joe Biden. Um, and presidential drawdown authority allows the president to draw from weapon stocks to help allies in an emergency. And then the US has 3.86 billion worth of presidential drawdown authority for Ukraine remaining. The last drawdown was a 500 million award by Biden on January the 9th. And
That's
Trump
just interesting that they call it an award.
award. This is your award. um, and and then here, this is again Reuters saying the United States is delivering artillery shells and mobile rocket artillery missiles to Ukraine. Um, uh, the pause in some weapons shipments last week appears to have been tied to concerns that U.S. military stockpiles might be too low. So that's gone. And then since then, Trump said he did not know who ordered the pause and that he would send more weapons to Ukraine, primarily defensive ones. So I guess artillery shells also counts as defensive. Um, and then the official, speaking on condition of anonymity, said 155 millimeter artillery shells and GMLRS mobile rocket artillery missiles are now being provided to Ukraine. The officials did not say how many weapons were being sent and whether the shipment was complete. It's also unclear why the latest shipments only included shells and artillery missiles, and whether any decisions had been made to resume shipments of other weapons. And then here was Germany, Chancellor Merz, who said he's ready to buy US-made Patriot systems for Ukraine. At the summit in Rome where he spoke, allies pledged over $10 billion for rebuilding, as Zelensky warned of more Russian attacks. And then Merz told the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Rome that Germany is prepared to purchase the US-made Patriot surface-to-air missile defense system for Kiev. His pledge came as Russia continued its daily aerial bombardment. And then we are also prepared to purchase additional Patriot systems from the US to make them available to Ukraine. So Merz said. And then he said, Merz
Yeah,
said
well,
he,
I just don't want to nitpick too much here, but these Patriot systems, as I understand it, take a cadre of up to 100 personnel to run them. Ukrainians are going to be running them, Americans, who's going to be running them? These are they're
these
not
are,
they don't meet the hype I remember them during the Gulf War.
right.
Okay,
Well, I guess they're
okay.
probably they're better now than they were then. I
Yeah,
mean,
but what I'm
30
saying
years
is,
on, yeah,
it's just it's not like a Lego set where you just put it all
right,
together and hit a button. I mean, there's a lot of other issues involved here. I mean, I've always been curious the level of personnel involvement
right.
here. Okay, and so is there a German cadre is
That's
going
a
to
very
be?
good question because Ukraine already has some of the Patriot systems. It has about two, three of these systems. So who runs those? I mean, who actually operates the systems? Um, and again, it's just not clear what's the use of it. I don't.
Oh, gee, I mean, there is a couple of, well, at least in my mind, reliable sources saying that they're going to get 10, with this system, they'll get 10 missiles. Well, on a bad night of bombardment, that's going to last you an hour and a half.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. But that's baffling. I mean, no, because that's always at the moment. Is that what is it going to be 10? Do they mean 10 missiles, which is nothing, or do they mean 10 batteries, which is a very substantial amount? And
Yeah, and then we have to put side by side is that we had, I think, South Korea gave up one of its systems for Israel. Other countries have done the same. I mean, there's a finite number of these Patriot missile systems here.
right,
Okay, All right. And from what I understand, it takes a long time to make an entire missile system. So again, George, I don't know. They're just blowing smoke at
Well,
us.
exactly. That's
But,
that's right.
because, we're led by the nose into this minutia. And what's the point? Well, we're preparing to go to war with Russia.
That's right.
Okay, I mean,
That, that,
say it
that,
out
that,
loud, okay?
that's right.
Because all of this, these little thin layers, every single night we do this,
Right.
this is what there is some kind of momentum
Right.
building up, okay?
Right.
This has nothing to do with these Patriot missile systems.
No, exactly. Exactly. You're absolutely right. I think that they're building a momentum.
But and of course they're only Patriot systems are defensive. I
Oh, of
always
course.
keep
Yeah.
talking about defense. We're not doing, no, we're not pushing it. We're not escalating here.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Just like we're not a party to the conflict. Um, and so
Oh
Mark Rutte,
God.
he,
As I call him, Rudy Fruity. Okay.
that's right. He, the one who told the New York Times recently that he was expecting a world war with China and Russia. And sometime soon, China would attack Taiwan, and then Xi Jinping would tell Putin, why don't you distract the Americans by invading NATO? And apparently, so they're going to do this double act. Um, and then, of course, recently, Mark Rutte, who said, in his charming way, that Lavrov has been foreign minister of Russia since before the birth of Jesus Christ. He's a real charmer and a true diplomat. Always says the appropriate thing on every occasion. And here he says he sent out this tweet: Russia's continued massive attacks against Ukrainian civilians are deplorable. Earlier today, I urged leaders to go further so Ukraine has more ammunition and air defenses. I've just spoken with President Trump and am now working closely with allies to get Ukraine the help they need. Now,
Last time we talked about um, uh, the general secretary that he was demanding an unconditional 30-day ceasefire. What
right.
happened?
Yeah, what happened there? You have to say, though, I mean, that Rutte, who, I mean, yes, we make fun of him, but he does seem to know how to handle Trump.
Yeah.
Um, his flattery of Trump at the NATO summit seems to have worked a miracle. I mean, he's now got Trump absolutely on board. Calling him daddy, that did the job. Um, and so
Wait, and of course, everyone, when Trump made it back to stateside, some, I would say, Trump-aligned entrepreneurs made Daddy Trump T-shirts.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He liked it.
He liked it. He did like it. Um, so basically, from what we can gather, Trump is he's on board. He's on board with this policy, but as we were saying earlier, without any any of the sort of the at least the malevolent driving force of Biden. He's just pursuing the Biden policy, but without any of the sort of the malevolent goals that was animating the Biden administration. I don't even know why he's doing this. I mean, Trump hasn't really articulated any strategy other than, oh, Ukraine is being bombed. I don't like that, and I don't like the way Putin's carrying on. I'm very disappointed, so I'm going to send arms.
Yeah, but what is your disappointment? And please define that for
Right,
me. That Putin won't do what you want him to do? Is that where but what is that? Is that a strategy?
right,
And what is if you have a strategy, what is the ultimate outcome
right,
that bolsters that strategy?
right.
Is the result peace?
Mm.
I mean, I'm disappointed. That's not a foreign policy.
It's not a foreign policy.
That's called brooding.
Exactly. And you also have to then ask is that if you are embarking on this, then it does indeed become your war. I mean, it's a, there's no getting around it now. You can't just keep saying, "Oh, I inherited this. I inherited this." Well, you've inherited it, and you're continuing with it. I mean, you haven't done anything at all to change change the arc of anything. I mean, you're just blustering. Oh well, wouldn't have happened if I'd been president. Yeah, but you're president now. What are you doing about it? You go, oh, I don't know. I'm just continuing with this, the same
Well,
policy.
I mean, this is again kind of varsity league here. So, um, if the current policy isn't working, so double down on it.
But right,
That's what it sounds like to me.
yeah.
If this is not working, so let's double down on it.
Right.
That's not okay, George. What do you think the big announcement will be on Monday?
Um,
Sorry to put you on the spot. You can ask
well,
the
it's
same
it's a
question.
very good question. Because I was going to ask you. Um, um,
I asked first.
you ask us. I would imagine he will throw his weight behind the Lindsey Graham bill, and probably is going to promise to send more arms to Ukraine with the proviso that, of course, somebody else is going to pay for it, and that it's the surest way to get to peace. Um, but I tend to think that. I think we're all thinking that it's going to be something more dramatic. I suspect there's going to be something quite mundane like that.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. Okay. This whole Lindsey, the way he talked about this, Lindsey Graham's, and I guess it's with Blumenthal, he's the co-sponsor. Um, he didn't speak with enthusiasm
No,
about it.
no,
And it sounded like, it's something I could put in my pocket.
right,
Okay. I can put this, as if the Senate has had anything to do with this war
right,
whatsoever. Okay.
right,
So that's kind of a fakery in front of us here. It's bluster. It's kind of brinksmanship works when you know cause and effect.
right,
This is going to happen.
right,
That's the power of brinkmanship, okay? Is that do you want to go that far?
right.
When he said, "Well, it's like I have the tools." Okay,
Yes.
well,
But
are
what?
you going to use the
But
tools?
what's?
Okay, I mean, what use are the tools in your toolbox if you're not going to use the tools?
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I mean, and this 500% tariff on Russian energy exports. It's not a tariff. It's not a sanction on Russia. It's
No,
on the
it's
recipients of Russian
on
energy.
exactly.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that, talk shit, okay? But Russia is a major oil energy exporter. If, let's say in theory it works, you're going to shut down uh, energy supplies like blocking the Straits of Hormuz. It's almost exactly the same amount. Okay,
Yes.
it's about 20%.
Right.
Well, what's going to happen then? So, oh, Saudi Arabia will come in and save the day. Well, it might, but how much excess capacity does Saudi
Well, I
Arabia
don't
have?
think it can. I
No,
think
it doesn't.
I
Okay,
don't think so.
look at all the other majors. How much excess capacity do they have? Not much.
No, I
Okay.
don't. I don't think so.
And but what does that mean? If we look at the major energy exporters, particularly of crude oil, I guess we could do a deep dive and look at, well, this 1.57% here, maybe eke out a percent over here. What we're trying to convey here is there's not a lot of excess supply. But when there's not excess supply, George, what happens to the price? It goes way up.
It's going to go way up. Exactly. Exactly.
So is
And
this what
then
you want,
and then
Donald
you
Trump?
and
And
then
and plus, what we just had here, George and I have very mixed feelings about BRICS, and I have an open mind very much towards the BRICS phenomenon. Um, uh, but they just had their big confab here, and now here we go again. Biden or Obama or Trump, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. They're going to use lawfare against the global South. That's going down very badly, everyone. Okay. Again, Trump is going to look like a bully. And considering in the wake of the unprovoked attack on Iran, and this is like self-owning yourself over and over again. Um, I don't think countries like China and India are going to give a hoot what Donald Trump has to say about these things. Okay, there could be damage to them. Is that what Washington wants? Is create even a greater chasm between the global North and the global South? It's just not well thought out. Russia's not going to be crushed by sanctions. Could the potential sanctions in the future hurt or be annoying? Sure, that there's no doubt about that. But it's not going to change the calculus on the battlefield in Ukraine.
No, it isn't. And uh, I quite agree. I think it can only have adverse economic effects. And of course, there's another problem, which is that the United States is also purchasing uranium from Russia. And according to these tariffs, the United States would then have to tariff itself because it's doing something it's not supposed to do, which is it's purchasing uranium from Russia.
But what
So,
happens if Russia doesn't want to sell it now?
yeah, yeah, that's right. So, um, I tend to think that when Scott Bessent talks to Trump and says, this is going to have a really bad effect on the world economy. He's going to, once oil prices spike, then you've got inflation on your hands. And once you've got inflation on your hands, your popularity sinks like a rock. I mean, it's like you can talk about MAGA this or MAGA that. Your popularity, it sinks into the toilet. So
And and
you
and
really
Joe,
don't want to go down that path.
and to reinforce the point, what groups, what populations in the West would be most affected by that? Well, the MAGA movement would be ultra sensitive to
Right.
that. Okay. Do
Right.
you think Jeff Bezos and Bill
Right.
Gates, if inflation
Right.
goes up 8%, do you think they think much about that?
Right.
Do these people even know what the cost of a gallon of gas is? They have a remote idea. I'll tell you, MAGA people know it
Yeah.
to the penny, how much it costs.
Yeah. 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 So that's the long
Yeah,
and the
but George, doesn't it, this is kind of an evolving theme that, you and I have kind of, I didn't want to go there, but what kind of leadership is this here? This doesn't look like leadership to me. It looks like um, a childish fit.
well, this is what's intriguing about this because if Trump had shown the leadership and basically at the start of the administration just simply cut his losses and said, okay, well, that's it. We're not going to do this with Ukraine anymore. All right. So then you can say, okay, well, Ukraine has been defeated and so on. But that's still not, it's not the end of the world. It's not a catastrophe because you could always rationalize it and say, well, if only Ukraine had joined NATO in 2008, Russia would not have invaded. If only we'd have done this or that, this wouldn't have happened. And then, of course, if Ukraine loses, it's a great boon for NATO because then NATO, it's a
Okay,
new.
I was waiting for you to finish, and I was going to say that.
Exactly.
Well, hey,
Hey,
NATO expanded.
that's right.
Hey, it expanded.
That's right.
They're going to be spending 5% of their GDP
Right.
by 2035.
Right.
That's a miracle. Trump's a miracle worker.
That's right.
This is
Exactly.
a win. I
That's
mean, the alliance now is more cohesive than ever before.
right.
There are no laggards now. Everyone's charging ahead. The
Exactly.
industrial base is good. We're making Europe great again. I mean, there's so many ways you can spin.
Exactly. You absolutely can come out of it and say, hey, it's all the fault of Angela Merkel. It's all her fault. She should have, she stood in the way of George W. Bush. If only George W. Bush had prevailed in 2008 at the Bucharest summit, Ukraine would have been in NATO and none of this would have happened. You can rationalize it like that. And then you can say, oh, but now everybody's on board because we're all frightened of Russia. Oh, Ooh, we have to spend 5%.
And
Soon it's going to be
finally,
10%.
the Europeans have talked about it for generations now, about, their own self-defense. Well, they're on board now. It was Donald Trump that did
That's
that.
right.
He was the only president that could do that. I mean, we're not even being paid to say
Yeah, exactly.
to
Exactly.
strategize here. It's not hard.
It would have been very easy for him to do this, but now he didn't do it. And now he's just simply just gone along this, that, changed his mind from one thing to another, became obsessed with this whole idea of these telephone calls with Putin. Quite pointless. He got the same message every time. Now he feels disappointed, even though he got the same message every time. You keep asking, and we keep telling you the same thing. So in a fit of pique, he's so well, okay, continuing with the Biden policy. Oh, but we're not paying for it. They're going to pay for it. That's the big difference.
What's so frustrating, and we go back to this very often, um, Russian intransience. That's the new buzz, right? Okay, well, let's go back to December 15th, 2021. And let's look what the Russians were asking, demanding, whatever word you want to use. Why don't we dust that off and say, hey, this is what this has all been about,
Right,
and we haven't changed our position. Are you prepared now, Trump administration,
right,
to look at this
right,
and talk with
right.
us? They don't even do that.
No,
Everything's in a vacuum. No, this was extremely well thought out.
right, right.
And yes, it was an ultimatum. The Biden people laughed at it, and there are people that were close to the administration. Oh, we didn't even look at it. We didn't take it serious. Of course not. Okay. I remember reading it at antiwar.com, some of these functionaries saying, "Oh yeah, we saw it. We didn't take it seriously." Well, that still stands, everyone. Except for the geographical reality of the front in Ukraine, nothing else has really changed.
No, no. Well, that's right. And you know, uh, what's interesting is that we can't even say. We say, okay, this is because of these hawks who have who managed to persuade Trump to deviate from the course that he wanted to pursue, which is what we said during his first term. But we can't say this. Marco Rubio has said nothing to suggest that he's the one who's driving this policy. Same with Hexeth. Hexeth and Rubio say nothing. I mean, they just basically allow Trump to talk. This isn't the first. This isn't John Bolton and Rex Tillerson and Mike Pompeo during his first term who seem to be shaping the policy. This is Trump. This is Trump's policy. This is on Trump. Rubio showed that he was ready to pretty much embrace whatever policy Trump wanted to embrace. He's shown no indication. There's not one interview which showed him to taking a very hawkish position. Like you said, he was very friendly with Lavrov. There's nothing to indicate that he's the one who was pressing Trump to take this belligerent line.
What a nondescript nobody Marco Rubio has turned out to be. But he's more interested in punishing Cuba. He's more
Right.
interested in punishing the people of Venezuela. This guy has no ideas. He has no vision whatsoever. He literally is a secretary running a department, okay, with his little pet projects on the side, and and either he has not wanted to stick his neck out, or he knows that he keeps his head down. Don't make any mistake. Don't inspire the president. Just don't make any mistakes, because in about a year from now, I'm going to bolt. Okay. And George and I have talked about how he's going to rationalize it. But George, it's draining the swamp. Well, no, Trump is thriving in the
That's right.
swamp.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The swamp, as they called it, and they have
Yeah,
embraced, and the swamp has embraced Donald Trump.
that's right. But you
They've
see,
embraced him.
again, when we look at the swamp, it was the Pentagon. It was the Pentagon, the policy making department that said, "Hey, let's cut back on the arms deliveries. We need the arms for ourselves. We can't just hand that." It was they. They were the ones. Trump is overruling the Pentagon, which didn't want to hand these weapons over. So you can't even say, oh, this the deep state coming in and swooping up and persuading Trump to take this course. There's no deep state. The policy planning unit of the Pentagon, which is the one that's run by Elbridge Colby, they were the ones who said, no, we need these weapons for ourselves. We're not going to deliver anymore to Ukraine. So Trump overruled the deep state, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. And Colby and Hegseth, they look like outliers right now. Pete Hegseth, he dislikes being Secretary of Defense and making these ridiculously revolting videos. Okay, he really is the multimedia Secretary of Defense. Okay, I mean, this is something when George and I were growing up, this would be more of a what was the smoking gun? What was the name of that series?
The
The
Naked
the
Gun.
like, yeah, this is like Naked Gun
Right, right.
stuff. Okay, it's like a parody on itself, is what it is here. So what happens on Monday? Well, of course, George and I, well, we do a live stream on Monday,
Exactly.
but it will, but because of the hour change, we probably won't know what it is.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. We don't know we haven't been told what time he's going to make this big announcement. But
Just
we have been
another
gnawing at our fingernails throughout the weekend.
It's another little sliver to the story here. This is an open-ended bad 1970s TV series.
All right.
Is the way very little production value, really bad writing, um,
Right,
uh,
right.
kind of cheap props, but we'll see where it goes. But I don't know, George. I think what'll be most important to talk about next week is how MAGA feels about this because it's got betrayal written all over it. And again, we're not going to do a podcast on it. But MAGA world is reeling over this
That's
Epstein thing.
right. Yep.
All right, everybody, we're going to keep an eye on this. Okay, this is the Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. This is Friday. We'll probably do another one for this day, and then we reconvene for kind of our usual. Um, I can expect blowout on Sunday, and then live stream on Monday.
On Monday, exactly. And then on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, please join me for my solo live stream. And then you got to think about the dogs because the dogs are saying, yeah, well, we work a year in a day in, day out, doing all the heavy lifting, and nobody so much as thanks us. So they're not in a good mood. So if you've got any money in your pocket, under the mattress, anywhere, in your bank account, preferably, transfer everything, to the dogs. They'll take everything, whatever you've got.
Leave the dogs in your will. It's okay.
Exactly, that's what they say. Yeah. Leave us in your will. So we're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology, and above all, we get the dogs to calm down a little bit. They're getting very agitated these days. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.